The Galactic Council chambers had never witnessed such chaos. Ambassador Zeftar of the Corinian Empire stood trembling at the central podium, his blue-scaled hands shaking as he gripped the speaking device. Around him, representatives from thousands of civilizations murmured in dozens of languages, their various appendages, tentacles, and energy forms flickering with anxiety. "Honored delegates," Zeftar began, his voice cracking through the universal translator. "I bring urgent news from the Outer Rim territories. The humans, they have done something unprecedented." A ripple of concern swept through the massive amphitheater. Humanity was still considered a young species by galactic standards, barely having achieved faster-than-light travel 3 decades ago. Most civilizations viewed them as curious but harmless creatures who seemed oddly attached to their pets and showed unusual emotional responses to fictional stories. Chancellor Vexoth, the ancient crystalline being who presided over the council, resonated with a low harmonic tone that commanded attention. "Elaborate, Ambassador. What could these young mammals have possibly accomplished that warrants emergency session?" Zeftar's throat sac inflated nervously. 3 solar cycles ago, the hegemony of Scar launched what they believed would be a simple conquest of the human colony world designated Terra Nova. It was supposed to be routine. A small agricultural planet with minimal defenses and only 2 million inhabitants. The Scarian representative, a hulking insectoid creature named General Thraxes, clicked his mandibles dismissively. "A minor setback. Our forces simply underestimated their defensive capabilities. We shall adjust our tactics accordingly." "No." Zeftar's voice echoed through the chamber. "You don't understand. There was no setback. There was annihilation." The chamber fell silent. Even the background hum of life support systems seemed to pause. "The Scar deployed their 7th invasion fleet," Zeftar continued, his voice barely above a whisper. 12 dreadnoughts, 47 cruisers, and over 200 support vessels, elite troops numbering in the hundreds of thousands. They had orbital superiority within hours. General Thraxes straightened in his biomechanical chair. "Impossible. The 7th Fleet is our most decorated unit. They have conquered 43 worlds without a single defeat. Was your most decorated unit." Zeftar activated the holographic display above the podium. "These are the final transmissions from your fleet." The 3-dimensional images that materialized showed scenes of utter devastation. Massive warships twisted into unrecognizable metal sculptures, debris fields where once mighty vessels had been reduced to cosmic dust. But most disturbing were the final moments captured by surviving sensors. Human ships moving with impossible precision, weapons that defied known physics, and tactical coordination that seemed almost supernatural. "The humans didn't just defend themselves," Zeftar explained, his voice growing stronger with each word. "They systematically dismantled your entire fleet. But that's not the terrifying part." Dr. Ylandra, the renowned Altarian strategist whose species had studied warfare for millennia, leaned forward with her multiple eyes focused intently. "What could be more concerning than the destruction of an entire invasion fleet?" "The time frame," Zeftar replied. "From the moment the first Scar vessel entered the Terra Nova system to the complete destruction of the 7th Fleet, 14 minutes and 37 seconds. A collective gasp arose from the assembled delegates. Several representatives began frantically inputting data into their personal computers, running calculations that all arrived at the same impossible conclusion. "Furthermore," Zeftar continued, "long-range sensors detected massive fleet movements throughout human space. Not just military vessels, but civilian ships, cargo haulers. Even their primitive mining barges were being retrofitted with weapons technology we've never seen before. Within hours of the attack on Terra Nova, humanity had mobilized their entire species." The Altarian delegates' primary eye stalks twisted in confusion. Mobilized for what? The threat was already neutralized. "For war," Zeftar said simply. "Complete total galactic war." He activated another series of holographic displays showing human fleet movements across dozens of star systems. "They're not just preparing to defend themselves. Intelligence reports suggest they're conducting deep reconnaissance missions into Scar territory, hegemony space, and even neutral systems. They're mapping hyperspace routes, cataloging defensive installations, and studying our civilizations with the methodical precision of a species preparing for conquest." General Thrax's exoskeleton clicked nervously. "This is preposterous. Humans are peaceful. They spend their time creating art, telling stories, and forming emotional attachments to lower life forms. They even hold festivals celebrating the changing of seasons. What kind of warrior species celebrates trees losing their leaves? The kind that can annihilate your most powerful fleet in under 15 minutes, Zeftar snapped. The kind that can take 3 decades of peaceful contact and reverse engineer every piece of technology we've shared with them. The kind that apparently views kindness not as weakness, but as a choice they can simply stop making. Commander Zelf of the Consortium of Worlds, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline shell, pulsed with nervous light. What evidence do you have that they intend aggressive action beyond their own territory? Zeftar's expression grew grave. Yesterday, human ambassadors simultaneously withdrew from every diplomatic mission across the galaxy. Every trade agreement has been suspended. Every cultural exchange program has been terminated. And this morning, we received a single transmission broadcast on all emergency frequencies. The chamber's lighting dimmed as Zeftar activated the final holographic display. A human figure appeared. Not one of their usual diplomatic representatives, but someone new. Someone whose eyes held a cold determination that made even the most battle-hardened species present feel a chill run through their various circulatory systems. To all galactic civilizations, the human said, his voice carrying an undertone of barely controlled fury. The unprovoked attack on Terra Nova has shown us the true nature of galactic politics. We have tried peaceful coexistence. We have shared our culture, our resources, and our friendship. In return, one of your member species attempted genocide against our people. The human paused, and somehow his silence was more terrifying than his words. Consider this your only warning. Any further aggression against human territories or human citizens will be met with immediate and overwhelming retaliation. We are no longer the naive species that joined your community 30 years ago. We have learned from you. We have grown. And we have remembered that long before we reached the stars, we were very, very good at war. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in absolute silence. Chancellor Vexoth's crystalline form dimmed considerably. How many species have access to our discussion here today? All of them, Zeftar replied quietly. This session is being broadcast across the galaxy as per standard emergency protocols. Then let it be recorded, the Chancellor resonated with a tone of finality, that on this day, the Galactic Council officially recognizes humanity as a Class A threat to galactic stability. All member species are advised to avoid human space and to under no circumstances engage in hostile actions against human interests. As the delegates began filing out of the chamber, each lost in their own thoughts about what this meant for the galaxy. None of them noticed the small, almost invisible probe that had been recording everything from a position just outside the station's sensor range. Aboard the human vessel Retribution, Captain Sarah Chen reviewed the footage with grim satisfaction. Well, she said to her tactical officer, they got the message. Signal the fleet. Time to see if they take our warning seriously. The probe's final transmission showed thousands of ships bearing human markings emerging from hyperspace throughout the galaxy, taking positions that would allow them to respond to any threat within hours instead of weeks. Humanity had indeed learned from the galaxy's civilizations. They had learned that in space, peace was not the absence of war, but the presence of overwhelming force held in check by choice. And they had learned that sometimes the only way to prevent a war was to be so thoroughly prepared for one that no one dared to start it. The Scar hegemony's capital world of Scarthak had never known defeat. For over 2,000 years, the Insectoid Empire had expanded relentlessly across the galaxy, crushing civilizations and enslaving entire species with methodical efficiency. Their war doctrine was simple: overwhelming force applied without mercy until submission was absolute. General Thrax's returned from the Galactic Council to find his homeworld transformed. Emergency protocols had been activated, and the skies above Scarthak buzzed with defensive platforms and patrol vessels. The planet's surface bristled with newly constructed weapon emplacements, their energy signatures creating an aurora-like glow in the atmosphere. Supreme Commander, Thrax reported to the towering figure of War Queen Siskara, whose exoskeleton bore the scars of 100 conquered worlds. The council session confirmed our worst fears. The humans possess capabilities far beyond our initial assessments. The War Queen's compound eyes focused on the tactical displays surrounding her command throne. Show me the battle analysis from Terra Nova. Thraxes activated the holographic recreation of humanity's devastating counterattack. The images were more detailed now, enhanced by Scar military intelligence and supplemented with data recovered from the few escape pods that had managed to flee the destruction. Their weapons technology appears to be an fusion of principles from multiple galactic civilizations, Thraxes explained, his mandibles clicking nervously. Corinian energy projection systems, Altarian targeting algorithms, and consortium shielding technology, but somehow integrated in ways that none of the original species achieved. War Queen Siskara studied the tactical breakdown with growing concern. How long did they have access to our technology? 32 standard years since first contact. But Supreme Commander, that's not the most disturbing aspect. Thraxes paused, his breathing spiracles fluttering with anxiety. The humans didn't just copy our technologies. They improved them. The tactical display zoomed in on wreckage analysis from the destroyed Scar vessels. Their energy weapons cut through our armor plating like it was atmospheric gas. Our shields, which have withstood bombardment from the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, were penetrated as if they weren't there. And their targeting systems, they hit weak points in our ship designs that even we didn't know existed. War Queen Siskara's primary arms scraped against her throne's armrests, leaving deep gouges in the reinforced material. Elaborate. They targeted structural junction points that would cause maximum catastrophic failure, with minimum energy expenditure. They hit weapon systems in sequence to prevent return fire. They even struck life support systems in patterns that would maximize crew casualties while keeping ship computers operational long enough to extract data. Thrax's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Supreme Commander, they didn't just destroy our fleet. They studied it while they were destroying it. The War Queen rose from her throne, her 2-meter frame imposing even by Scar standards. What is the current status of human fleet movements? Long-range sensors have detected human vessels in 47 different systems, including several deep within our territory. They appear to be conducting detailed scans of our defensive installations, trade routes, and population centers, but they're maintaining just outside our response range, close enough to gather intelligence, far enough to avoid immediate retaliation. How many ships? Unknown, Supreme Commander. They're using some form of advanced stealth technology. Our sensors detect them intermittently, but we cannot get accurate counts or classifications. Conservative estimates suggest at least 300 vessels, but the actual number could be significantly higher. War Queen Siskara moved to the central planning table, where a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy slowly rotated. Red indicators marked confirmed human positions, while yellow zones showed areas of suspected activity. The pattern was unmistakable. Humanity was systematically mapping every major civilization's capabilities and weaknesses. What of our allies? Surely the hegemony of Scar is not the only target of human aggression. Thrax activated additional displays showing intelligence reports from across the galaxy. Every major military power is reporting similar reconnaissance activities. The Corinian Empire has detected human probes near their shipyards. The Altarian Collective found evidence of infiltration attempts on their research stations. Even the neutral trading systems have reported mysterious vessels conducting deep space surveys. And their response? Panic, Supreme Commander. The Corinians have recalled their entire fleet to defend their core worlds. The Altarians are implementing emergency protocols they haven't used since the Great Plague Wars. The trading consortiums are suspending all operations in contested space. The War Queen's complex eyes reflected the holographic displays as she processed this information. In 3 decades, we shared our culture, our technology, our military doctrines with these humans. We believed them to be a useful addition to the galactic community, intelligent enough to be valuable, peaceful enough to be controlled. Yes, Supreme Commander, we were wrong. She turned back to the tactical displays showing Terra Nova's defense. They weren't learning from us. They were learning about us. Every cultural exchange, every trade agreement, every diplomatic mission, they were gathering intelligence for a war they knew would eventually come. Thrax's exoskeleton clicked as he shifted nervously. Should we consider negotiation? Perhaps offer reparations for the Terra Nova incident? War Queen Siskara's laugh was a sound like breaking glass. Look at these movement patterns, General. Study their positioning. These are not the actions of a species seeking reparations or justice for a single attack. These are the preliminary moves of a civilization preparing for total conquest. She gestured to the galactic map where human positions formed a complex web throughout known space. They're not just gathering intelligence on military targets. They're mapping civilian populations, industrial centers, agricultural worlds, and resource extraction sites. They're preparing to either conquer or destroy everything we've built. But surely they lack the numbers for such an undertaking. Even with advanced technology, they cannot have more than a few hundred worlds compared to our thousands. The War Queen accessed classified intelligence reports on human population and industrial capacity. The numbers that appeared made her breathing spiracles close in alarm. During their 30 years in the galactic community, human population has increased by 400%. Their industrial output has grown by over 2,000%. They've established colonies in star systems we didn't even know were habitable, and according to these reports, every single human settlement has been conducting what they call asteroid mining operations. She highlighted specific data points on the display. General, they haven't been mining asteroids for raw materials. They've been hollowing them out and converting them into mobile fortifications. Every asteroid field in human space is now potentially a hidden military installation. Thrax has studied the implications with growing horror. How many asteroids are we talking about? Conservative estimates suggest over 10,000 fortified positions throughout human space, with unknown numbers of mobile installations that could be deployed anywhere in the galaxy within weeks. The command center fell silent except for the humming of electronic systems and the distant sound of defensive platforms being moved into position above Scarthak. There's something else, the War Queen continued, accessing another set of classified files. Human psychology analysis conducted over the past 3 decades reveals disturbing patterns. As a species, they form what they call emotional bonds, not just with their own kind, but with their environment, their creations, even abstract concepts like justice and freedom. How is this militarily relevant? Because when these bonds are threatened, humans display behavioral patterns unlike any species we've encountered. They become capable of sustained, coordinated violence on a scale that defies individual self-preservation instincts. They will sacrifice themselves, their resources, even their entire civilization, to protect what they consider important. The War Queen pulled up psychological profiles of human military personnel. During their own historical conflicts before they achieved spaceflight, humans consistently demonstrated the ability to fight against overwhelming odds when they believed their cause was justified. They call it fighting for principle rather than survival. Are you suggesting they view our attack on Terra Nova as more than simple military aggression? I'm suggesting they view it as an attack on everything they believe in, and that makes them more dangerous than any enemy we've ever faced. The War Queen deactivated the displays and turned to face her general directly. Thrax, issue immediate orders to all hegemony forces. Full defensive posture. Recall all expansion fleets. Cancel all offensive operations against other species. Supreme Commander, surely you're not suggesting we allow these mammals to intimidate the might of the Scar hegemony? War Queen Siskara's voice carried the weight of 2 millennia of military experience. I'm suggesting that for the first time in our history, we may have Enko. Dr. Yelandra had spent 7 centuries studying warfare, analyzing conflicts across the galaxy, and developing strategic doctrines for the Altarian collective. Her species prided themselves on their analytical minds and their ability to predict the outcome of military engagements with mathematical precision. Never before had she encountered a situation that defied every model, every algorithm, every theoretical framework she had developed. The emergency meeting of the Altarian Strategic Council convened in the crystalline chambers beneath the capital city of Velthar. Representatives from across the collective's territory attended via quantum entanglement communicators, their holographic forms flickering with nervous energy around the central discussion platform. Fellow strategists, Dr. Yelandra began, her 4 primary eyes focusing on different data streams simultaneously. We face an unprecedented situation. The human species has demonstrated capabilities that should not exist according to our understanding of technological development. She activated the central holographic display, showing detailed analysis of the Terra Nova engagement. Standard military doctrine suggests that achieving this level of tactical superiority requires either overwhelming numerical advantage or technological advancement spanning centuries of development. Humanity possessed neither 3 days ago. Director Zenthic, the collective's foremost expert on xenobiology, leaned forward with interest. Perhaps we underestimated their baseline capabilities. Some species develop along unexpected evolutionary paths. Negative, Dr. Yolandra replied, pulling up comprehensive biological and psychological profiles compiled over 30 years of human contact. Human development follows predictable patterns. Their neural architecture, while efficient, shows no signs of advanced tactical processing capabilities. Their muscle density and reaction times are within normal parameters for their size class. Their sensory apparatus is actually below galactic average in most categories. She paused, studying the data with growing confusion. By every measurable standard, humans should be average at best in military applications. Yet somehow, they achieved tactical supremacy over one of the galaxy's most feared military forces in a matter of minutes. Strategic Coordinator Malakas materialized as a shimmering hologram from the outer colonies. Could it be their technology? Perhaps they've made breakthrough discoveries we're unaware of. Dr. Yolandra activated another display showing technological analysis. This is where it becomes truly disturbing. Human weapons technology appears to be based entirely on modifications of existing galactic designs. Corinian energy principles, our own targeting systems, consortium defensive protocols. But the integration methods, she highlighted specific technical specifications that made several council members' optical organs dilate with shock. They've achieved efficiency ratings that our best theoretical models said were impossible. Energy conversion rates that violate established physical principles. Targeting accuracy that requires computational power exceeding what their ship hulls should be able to contain. Director Zenthic's secondary eyes focused on the technical readouts. How is this possible? Our own engineers have been working with these principles for millennia. That's the critical question, Dr. Yolandra replied. We've been thinking about technology the way our individual species evolved. Incremental improvements within established paradigms. Humans appear to approach technology differently. She activated a new display showing human research and development patterns over the past 30 years. Instead of specializing in one area like most species, humans have been simultaneously advancing in every field they encountered. Medical technology, agricultural systems, industrial production, energy generation, information processing, and military applications. Impossible, Strategic Coordinator Malakas interjected. No species has sufficient resources to advance on all fronts simultaneously. That's where we made our critical error in assessment, Dr. Yolandra continued. We assumed human society operated like ours, with distinct specialization castes and resource allocation hierarchies. But human social structure is fundamentally different. She pulled up social analysis data that had been largely ignored during previous contact periods. Humans don't have fixed caste systems. Individual humans routinely change specializations throughout their lifespans. Their educational systems encourage knowledge acquisition across multiple disciplines, and most significantly, they share information freely across their entire population. Director Zenthic's primary eyes widened. Free information sharing? Across an entire species? That would eliminate competitive advantages between different groups. Exactly. While we've been carefully guarding our technological advances from other species, and even from different factions within our own species, humans have been treating the entire galaxy as a source of freely available research data. Dr. Yolandra activated a comprehensive analysis showing human information gathering patterns. Every cultural exchange, every trade mission, every diplomatic contact has been systematically documented and shared across their entire civilization. They haven't just been learning our individual technologies, they've been learning how we think about technology. The implications began to settle over the assembled strategists like a cold shadow. Furthermore, she continued, human cognitive patterns show remarkable adaptability. Where most species excel in specific types of problem solving, humans appear to excel at recognizing patterns across completely different fields and applying solutions from one area to problems in another. She highlighted specific examples from human technological developments. They applied agricultural genetics to improve their industrial bacteria. They used artistic principles to enhance their communication algorithms. They even applied their entertainment industry techniques to improve military training efficiency. Strategic Coordinator Malakas's hologram flickered with agitation. Are you suggesting they've been preparing for this conflict for 3 decades? Worse, Dr. Yolanda replied grimly. I'm suggesting they've been preparing for every possible conflict. Look at their colony placement patterns, their resource allocation strategies, their population distribution models. The display showed human expansion throughout the galaxy, which had previously appeared random and inefficient to galactic observers. What we interpreted as poor planning was actually strategic positioning. Every human colony is located to provide optimal coverage for both defense and offense against every major galactic civilization. That level of strategic planning would require unprecedented cooperation across an entire species, yes. Which brings us to the most disturbing aspect of human psychology. Dr. Yolanda pulled up psychological analysis data that had been collecting electronic dust in research archives. Humans possess what they call empathy, the ability to emotionally experience the suffering of other individuals as if it were their own. This trait extends not just to their own species but to other life forms, abstract concepts, and even future generations they will never meet. Director Zenthik's optical organs contracted with confusion. How is emotional instability a strategic advantage? Because it means that an attack on any human population is psychologically experienced as an attack on all human populations. The destruction at Terra Nova wasn't just a military setback for humanity. It was personal trauma, experienced by every human in the galaxy simultaneously. The council chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. You're describing a hive mind, Strategic Coordinator Malachus whispered. Not a hive mind, Dr. Yolanda corrected. Something potentially more dangerous. A species of billions of individuals who choose to act as a unified entity when threatened. They maintain individual creativity and initiative, but can coordinate their actions with the precision of a single organism. She activated one final display, showing current human fleet movements across the galaxy. This is what that coordination looks like when applied to military action. Every human vessel, from massive dreadnoughts to single-person scouts, moving in perfect synchronization towards strategic objectives we can only guess at. Director Zenthik leaned back in his consultation chair. What do you recommend? Dr. Yolanda studied the data one more time, running final calculations through analysis protocols that had never failed her before. All the results pointed to the same conclusion: complete military stand-down, immediate cessation of all activities that could be interpreted as hostile, and hope that human empathy works in both directions, that they're as capable of mercy as they are of vengeance. She deactivated the displays, leaving the council in dim illumination. Because according to every model I can construct, if humanity decides to eliminate threats to their species rather than simply deter them, no force in the galaxy can stop them. As the council members signed off their quantum connections one by one, each returning to their respective worlds to implement emergency defensive protocols, none of them noticed the subtle fluctuations in their communication networks. Deep in human space, artificial intelligence systems that had been quietly monitoring galactic communications for decades processed every word of what their Ambassador Krelthon of the Neutral Trading Confederation had spent his entire career navigating the complex political waters between the galaxy's major powers. His species, the Velkari, had survived for millennia by maintaining strict neutrality and facilitating commerce between civilizations that would otherwise destroy each other. They had weathered the Corinian expansion, the Scar conquests, and the Altarian technological revolution by remaining valuable to all sides and threatening to none. Now, for the first time in recorded history, Krelthon found himself genuinely afraid. The emergency meeting of the Confederation's Trade Council convened aboard the massive commercial station of Nexus Prime, positioned at the intersection of 12 major hyperspace routes. Representatives from hundreds of trading species gathered in the station's central amphitheater, their various forms of communication creating a babel of sounds, lights, and energy patterns that normally represented the vibrant diversity of galactic commerce. Today, that diversity was united by a single emotion: terror. Fellow traders, Krelthon began, his tentacled form undulating with nervous energy. The situation has escalated beyond anything in our historical experience. Human vessels have been detected at every major trade route intersection in the galaxy. He activated the central holographic display, showing trade route maps that had remained stable for thousands of years. Now red indicators marked human presence at strategic positions throughout the network. They're not interfering with commerce. Trade Commissioner Yexila of the Silicon Collective noted, her crystalline form refracting light in anxious patterns. Our cargo vessels are being allowed to pass without incident. That's what makes this so terrifying, Krelthon replied. They're not acting like conquerors or raiders. They're positioning themselves like administrators. The implications sent ripples of concern through the assembled traders. For millennia, the Galactic Trade Network had operated independently of political control, with the Neutral Trading Confederation serving as mediators and facilitators. The idea of any single species controlling commerce was unprecedented. What evidence do we have of their intentions? Asked Merchant Captain Drulik, whose bioship pulsed with bioluminescent concern patterns. Krelthon activated detailed sensor readings from across the galaxy. Human vessels are conducting comprehensive scans of every cargo ship, every trading post, every commercial facility they encounter. But they're not just recording cargo manifests or trade agreements. He highlighted specific data points that made several council members recoil in shock. They're cataloging production capabilities, resource flows, supply chain dependencies, and population support requirements for every civilization in the galaxy. Supply chain analysis? Trade Commissioner Yexila's light pattern shifted to confusion. Why would a military force be interested in commercial logistics? Because, Krelthon said grimly, they're not just planning for war. They're planning for what comes after war. He activated a new display showing human analysis patterns compared to historical conquest data. When the Scar hegemony conquers a world, they focus on military assets and population control. When the Corinian Empire expands, they concentrate on resource extraction and territorial administration. But humans are studying the entire economic ecosystem that supports galactic civilization. Merchant Captain Drulik's bioship darkened with alarm. They're learning how to shut down or control the entire galaxy's economy. Worse, Krelthon continued. According to our economic analysis department, they're identifying single points of failure that could cause cascade collapses across multiple civilizations simultaneously. He pulled up classified economic modeling, data that showed the terrifying vulnerability of galactic commerce. For example, the Altarian Collective depends on rare mineral imports from 17 different systems for their technology production. The Corinian Empire requires agricultural products from 43 worlds to feed their population. The Scar hegemony relies on energy crystals from a single star system to power their fleet. This is standard economic diversification, Trade Commissioner Yexila protested. Every civilization has resource dependencies. Yes, but humans are mapping all of them simultaneously. They now know exactly which trade routes to disrupt, which facilities to target, and which resources to control to bring any civilization to its knees without firing a single shot. The council chamber fell silent as traders realized the implications. War was one thing. Military conflicts created opportunities for neutral parties to profit from both sides. But economic warfare on a galactic scale would mean the collapse of the entire commercial system that had sustained peace for millennia. There's more, Krelthon continued. Accessing intelligence reports from across the galaxy, human commercial vessels have been making unusual purchases throughout neutral space. Not military hardware or strategic materials, but seemingly random items that make no sense in combination. He displayed purchasing records that had puzzled trade analysts for weeks. Art supplies from the aesthetic worlds, entertainment media from pleasure planets, educational materials covering thousands of different subjects, agricultural seeds from hundreds of different biospheres, medical supplies for species they've never encountered. Merchant Captain Drulik's confusion patterns intensified. What possible military purpose could those serve? None, Krelthon replied. But they serve a different purpose entirely. Humans aren't just preparing to conquer the galaxy. They're preparing to rebuild it. The economic implications became clear as he activated projections, showing human resource acquisition patterns. They're collecting everything needed to maintain or replace galactic civilization's cultural, educational, medical, and recreational infrastructure. They're not planning to destroy what exists. They're planning to control it completely. Trade Commissioner Yexila's crystalline form dimmed with realization. They could allow civilization to continue functioning normally, but under their administration. Exactly. Conquest through indispensability rather than destruction. Make themselves essential to galactic survival, then dictate terms from a position where resistance means economic collapse and social chaos. Krelthon activated one final display, showing the most disturbing intelligence of all. But here's what truly terrifies our economists. Preliminary analysis suggests that human administration of galactic commerce might actually be more efficient than our current system. The reaction was immediate and visceral. Several council members' communication systems overloaded with protest signals, creating a cacophony of outraged responses. Impossible! Merchant Captain Drulek's bioship flashed angry red patterns. The Neutral Trading Confederation has optimized galactic commerce for millennia. We have optimized it for maximum profit and minimum political interference, Krelthon corrected. Humans appear to be optimizing it for maximum efficiency and maximum benefit to all participants. He displayed economic models that human vessels had been testing in isolated systems. They've been conducting small-scale experiments in resource allocation and trade facilitation. The results show productivity increases of 30 to 60% across all measured categories. That's not possible with our current technology. Trade Commissioner Yexilla protested. It's possible with their approach to information sharing and coordination, Krelthon explained. Remember, humans don't maintain the competitive secrecy that our species consider essential to commercial success. They share efficiency improvements freely across their entire civilization. The implications were staggering. For thousands of years, galactic commerce had been driven by each species maximizing their own advantages, while carefully guarding trade secrets from potential competitors. The idea of open cooperation was not just foreign, it was economically heretical. There's something else, Krelthon continued, pulling up psychological analysis data. Human commercial behavior shows patterns unlike any species we've studied. They appear to derive satisfaction not just from personal profit, but from the success of their trading partners. Biologically impossible, Merchant Captain Drulek stated flatly. Successful commerce requires competitive advantage. For our species, yes. But humans seem to operate on the principle that universal prosperity is more valuable than individual advantage. They prefer trade agreements where all parties benefit significantly, rather than arrangements where they benefit maximally at others' expense. The council members struggled to process this information. The concept challenged fundamental assumptions about commerce, competition, and economic survival that had shaped galactic trade for millennia. What do you recommend? Trade Commissioner Yexilla asked finally. Krelthon deactivated the displays and faced the assembled council directly. Immediate negotiation for trading rights under human administration. If we cannot prevent their economic dominance, we must ensure our survival within it. He paused, considering the magnitude of what he was suggesting. And we must hope that human concepts of fairness and cooperation extend to species that have spent millennia profiting from the inefficiencies they're about to eliminate. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UES Determination, watching the massive space station of Nexus Prime grow larger in the main viewscreen. Around her, the most advanced human vessel ever constructed hummed with barely contained energy, its hybrid technology representing 30 years of galactic learning, compressed into a single devastating package. Captain, reported Commander Chen from the communications station. We're receiving standard docking clearance from Nexus Prime Traffic Control. They seem nervous, Elena smiled grimly. They should be. Status report on Operation Lighthouse. All human fleets have reached their designated positions, Lieutenant Torres announced from Tactical. We now have coverage of every major hyperspace junction, trade route, and strategic resource system in the galaxy. Total deployment, 2,417 vessels. And our cloaked reconnaissance units? 538 stealth ships are conducting deep intelligence gathering within enemy territory. So far undetected. Elena nodded, studying the tactical display that showed human forces positioned throughout galactic space like a three-dimensional chess game. Dr. Okafor, what's the status on Project Mirror? The ship's chief science officer, a woman whose expertise spanned xenobiology, psychology, and strategic analysis, looked up from her console with satisfaction. We've successfully intercepted and analyzed communications from every major galactic civilization over the past 72 hours. Their reactions are exactly as predicted. She activated the central holographic display, showing intelligence summaries from across the galaxy. The Scar hegemony has recalled all military forces to defensive positions. The Altarian Collective has implemented total military stand-down protocols. The Corinian Empire is attempting to negotiate non-aggression treaties with their neighbors. And the Neutral Trading Confederation is actively seeking diplomatic contact with us. Fear, Elena observed. They're all operating from fear. More than that, Dr. Okafor continued. They're operating from complete uncertainty. They can't predict our intentions because they're applying their own psychological frameworks to human behavior. She highlighted specific intelligence reports that showed the confusion spreading through galactic leadership. They assume we want conquest, but our actions don't match historical conquest patterns. They assume we want resources, but we're not targeting resource-rich systems. They assume we want territory, but we're not claiming any new worlds. Commander Chen turned from his station. What do we want, Captain? I mean, what's the endgame here? Elena was quiet for a moment, considering the question that had been debated in human leadership councils for months. We want to never again watch 2 million humans die because some alien species decided we were convenient targets. And we want to ensure it never happens to anyone else. Either. Explain, Dr. Okafor requested, though her expression suggested she already understood. The galactic community operates on a principle of might makes right, Elena continued, studying the tactical display. Powerful species conquer or intimidate weaker ones. Trade agreements are enforced through threat of military action. And peaceful civilizations exist only at the sufferance of their more aggressive neighbors. She gestured to intelligence reports showing the history of galactic conflicts over the past millennium. The Scar alone have destroyed 47 civilizations. The Corinians have enslaved entire species. Even the Neutral Trading Confederation profits from conflicts by selling weapons to both sides. Lieutenant Torres frowned. So we're going to, what? Conquer everyone to prevent conquest? We're going to demonstrate that there's a better way, Elena replied, by becoming so overwhelmingly powerful that we can afford to be merciful. Dr. Okafor activated historical analysis data. It's a concept alien to most galactic civilizations. They achieve peace through balance of power, multiple forces canceling each other out. Humans are introducing the concept of peace through overwhelming force held in check by choice. The Pax Humana, Elena said simply. Peace through human protection rather than human conquest. Commander Chen's console chimed with an incoming transmission. Captain, we're receiving a priority communication from Earth. It's Admiral Harrison. On screen. The image of Admiral Sarah Harrison materialized in the holographic display, her expression grim but determined. Captain Vasquez, Operation Lighthouse has exceeded all expectations. We've received diplomatic overtures from 17 different civilizations in the past 12 hours. All seeking non-aggression agreements. What about the Scar response? War Queen Siskara has agreed to meet with human representatives to discuss mutual understanding, as she puts it. It's the first time in their recorded history that the Scar have agreed to negotiate from any position other than total superiority. Elena felt a surge of satisfaction. And the Terra Nova survivors? Full recovery expected for all civilian casualties. The medical advances we've gained from studying galactic technology are paying dividends. We can now treat injuries that would have been fatal 30 years ago. What are our orders, Admiral? Admiral Harrison's expression softened slightly. Begin Phase 2 of Operation Lighthouse. Diplomatic contact with galactic leadership. But Elena, they need to understand that human mercy is not human weakness. Understood. What about the other civilizations? The ones that haven't been actively hostile? That's where it gets interesting, the Admiral replied, accessing data files that made Elena's eyebrows rise. We've identified 43 species that have been victims of Scar aggression, 67 that are currently under Corinian subjugation, and over 200 civilizations that exist in constant fear of conquest. Elena began to understand the broader implications. We're not just deterring the predators, we're offering protection to the prey. Exactly. Human philosophy has always held that with great power comes great responsibility. We now have the power to reshape galactic civilization. The question is whether we have the wisdom to do it right. Dr. Okafor leaned forward with interest. What's the reaction from the potential beneficiaries of human protection? Admiral Harrison smiled for the first time during the conversation. Mixed but promising. Some are suspicious. They can't believe any species would offer protection without demanding tribute or subjugation in return. Others are desperate enough to take any chance at freedom. And a few are offering to join us as equals rather than subjects. A galactic alliance based on mutual cooperation rather than fear, Elena mused. It could work. It has to work, Admiral Harrison replied. Because the alternative is that humanity becomes just another galactic empire, ruling through force and fear. And that's not who we are, she paused, studying reports from across human space. Captain, 30 years ago we joined the galactic community believing that diversity and cooperation would lead to peace and prosperity for everyone. We were naive about the realities of galactic politics, but we weren't wrong about the potential. So we're going to force them to cooperate? Lieutenant Torres asked. We're going to demonstrate that cooperation is more profitable than conflict, Elena corrected, by making ourselves indispensable to galactic stability and too powerful to challenge. Admiral Harrison nodded approvingly. Proceed to Nexus Prime and begin diplomatic contact with the Neutral Trading Confederation. Show them what human-administered commerce could look like. Let them see that our goal isn't to destroy what they've built, but to make it work better for everyone. And if they refuse, then they'll discover that human patience has limits, the Admiral replied. We prefer cooperation, but we're prepared for any response they choose to make. As the transmission ended, Elena turned to study the approaching space station. Nexus Prime represented everything that was both good and bad about galactic civilization. Incredible diversity and innovation, alongside exploitation and inequality. Dr. Okafor, prepare our economic restructuring proposals. Commander Chen, signal Nexus Prime that we're requesting permission to address the full Trading Council. And Lieutenant Torres, yes, Captain? Prepare full defensive systems, but keep weapons powered down. We're going to show them that humans can be trusted with power, because we're strong enough to be gentle. As the UES determination docked with Nexus Prime, representatives from hundreds of civilizations watched through observation ports and sensor arrays. Most had never seen a human vessel this close, and the advanced technology integrated into its hull design sent ripples of concern through galactic intelligence services. But what they couldn't see, couldn't measure, and couldn't understand was the humanity of the crew inside. Beings who had chosen to use overwhelming power, not for conquest, but for the protection of those who couldn't protect themselves. The age of human dominance in the galaxy was about to begin, but it would be unlike any dominance the cosmos had ever seen. The Grand Assembly Hall of Nexus Prime had hosted thousands of negotiations over its 1,000-year history, but never had it seen anything like the gathering that now filled its vast chamber. Representatives from every major galactic civilization sat in carefully arranged sections, their various forms creating a living rainbow of galactic diversity. At the center of it all stood Captain Elena Vasquez, appearing deceptively human and fragile compared to the armored insectoids, crystalline energy beings, and massive bioforms surrounding her. Behind her, a single holographic display waited to reveal humanity's vision for the galaxy's future. Honored delegates, Elena began, her voice carried by translation systems to every corner of the assembly. 7 days ago, the Scar hegemony attacked the human colony of Terra Nova without provocation, killing 2 million innocent civilians. A murmur rippled through the assembly. Ambassador Zeftar of the Corinian Empire shifted nervously in his environmental suit, while General Thrax's exoskeleton clicked with agitation. 7 days ago, Elena continued, the galaxy learned that humanity is not the peaceful, naive species you believed us to be. Today you will learn what we actually are. She activated the holographic display, showing a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy with human positions marked in blue. The sheer scope of human deployment caused gasps from several delegates as they realized the extent of humanity's reach. We are teachers who have learned from every civilization in this chamber. We are students who never stopped asking questions. We are engineers who see problems not as obstacles but as challenges to overcome. And we are guardians who refuse to allow the strong to prey upon the weak. Dr. Yolandra of the Altarian Collective leaned forward, her multiple eyes focusing intently. What do you want from us? Nothing, Elena replied simply. And everything. The paradox sent confused signals through the translation systems as delegates struggled to understand. We want nothing from you that you aren't willing to give freely. No tribute, no subjugation, no territorial concessions. But we want everything to change about how this galaxy operates. She gestured to the holographic display, which began showing economic and military data from across galactic space. For millennia, galactic civilization has operated on principles of competition, exploitation, and survival of the strongest. These principles have created a universe where billions live in fear, where entire species can be destroyed for resources or territory, and where peace exists only as a temporary pause between conflicts. Trade Commissioner Yexilla's crystalline form pulsed with nervous energy. You propose an alternative? We propose the obvious alternative that every civilization in this chamber has been too afraid to attempt, Elena replied. Cooperation, mutual protection, shared prosperity, the radical idea that everyone's security is more important than anyone's dominance. War Queen Siskara of the Scar hegemony rose from her position, her imposing form casting shadows across nearby delegates. Cooperation is weakness. The strong survive by dominating the weak. This is the natural order. Elena turned to face the War Queen directly, showing no sign of intimidation despite the size difference. The natural order, Your Majesty, is whatever the most powerful force in the galaxy decides it should be. And as of 7 days ago, that force is humanity. The chamber fell silent as the implications settled over the assembled delegates. But unlike previous dominant species, Elena continued, humanity chooses to use our power to protect rather than to conquer. We choose cooperation over domination, because we've learned something that apparently escaped your species during your 2,000 years of expansion. And what is that? War Queen Siskara demanded. That a galaxy where everyone prospers is more valuable than a galaxy where only you prosper, Elena. Activated new displays showing economic projections that made several delegates recoil in shock. Human analysis indicates that current galactic civilization operates at approximately 12% efficiency. Resource allocation is hampered by trade wars. Technological development is slowed by competitive secrecy, and population productivity is reduced by constant military expenditure. She highlighted specific examples that hit close to home for various civilizations. The Corinian Empire spends 40% of its resources defending against Scar expansion. The Altarian Collective maintains military forces that could be researching medical advances instead. The Scar hegemony's conquest campaigns cost more than the resources they acquire. Even the Neutral Trading Confederation, she continued, turning to Ambassador Krelthon, profits from inefficiency by charging premium prices for services that could be provided at fraction of the cost through cooperative logistics. Ambassador Krelthon's tentacles curled defensively. Commercial competition drives innovation and efficiency. Commercial cooperation drives faster innovation and greater efficiency, Elena countered. Humanity has spent 30 years studying every civilization's technological achievements. Do you know what we discovered? She activated displays showing technological development timelines across the galaxy. Every major breakthrough achieved by any species could have been developed centuries earlier if information had been shared freely rather than hoarded. Competitively, Dr. Yolandra's optical organs focused on the data with growing amazement. These calculations suggest technological advancement rates could increase by orders of magnitude. Conservative estimates indicate that full galactic cooperation could achieve in decades what competitive development requires centuries to accomplish, Elena confirmed. Medical advances that could eliminate disease, energy technologies that could power civilizations indefinitely, transportation systems that could connect the galaxy like a single world. And you expect us to simply abandon millennia of successful survival strategies based on theoretical projections? War Queen Siskara challenged. I expect you to abandon them because the alternative is extinction, Elena replied matter-of-factly. The blunt statement sent shockwaves through the assembly as delegates realized the implicit threat. Not extinction at human hands, Elena clarified quickly. Extinction through your own systemic failures. She activated new displays showing long-term projections for galactic civilization under current systems. Current conflict patterns are unsustainable. Resource depletion from competitive waste, population decline from constant warfare, technological stagnation from security restrictions. Give it another 1,000 years, and galactic civilization will collapse under the weight of its own inefficiencies. The projections were undeniable, verified by mathematical models that several civilizations had secretly developed but never shared. Humanity offers an alternative, Elena continued. Join the Terran Cooperation Accord. Maintain your independence, your culture, your governments, but agree to share information freely, resolve conflicts through arbitration rather than warfare, and contribute to collective defense against external threats. And if we refuse? General Thrakus asked, his mandibles clicking nervously. Elena's expression didn't change, but somehow the atmosphere in the chamber grew noticeably colder. Then you continue operating under your current systems with one significant modification, which is, any civilization that attacks another member of galactic community will discover that humanity takes collective defense very seriously. She activated a final display, showing human military capabilities in full detail for the first time. The assembled delegates stared in growing horror at fleet compositions, technological specifications, and strategic deployment patterns that dwarfed anything previously seen in galactic history. We prefer cooperation, Elena said quietly. But we're prepared for any alternative you choose. War Queen Siskara studied the military data with the expertise of a career warrior. You could conquer the galaxy, yes, but you won't. Not unless you force us to. The War Queen was silent for long moments, processing implications that challenged everything her species believed about power and survival. What guarantee do we have that human protection won't become human domination? Elena smiled for the first time during the presentation. The same guarantee you've always had from any powerful neighbor. None whatsoever. But consider this. In 30 years of contact with galactic civilization, name one instance where humanity broke its word or betrayed an ally. The chamber remained silent as delegates searched their historical records for evidence that didn't exist. The difference, Elena continued, is that human domination would still be better for your people than your current freedom. We're not offering to rule you because we're benevolent. We're offering to protect you because we're powerful enough to afford benevolence. She deactivated the displays and faced the assembly directly. You have 48 hours to decide. Join the Terran Cooperation Accord willingly, or wait for circumstances to force your decision. But understand that the status quo ended 7 days ago when the Scar hegemony decided to test human resolve. As Elena walked calmly toward the exit, leaving the galaxy's leadership to contemplate choices that would reshape civilization, Ambassador Zeftar voiced the question every delegate was thinking. What if we're making the right choice for the wrong reasons? War Queen Siskara's response was barely audible above the chamber's view. The Grand Assembly Hall of Nexus Prime had hosted thousands of negotiations over its 1,000-year history, but never had it seen anything like the gathering that now filled its vast chamber. Representatives from every major galactic civilization sat in carefully arranged sections, their various forms creating a living rainbow of galactic diversity. At the center of it all stood Captain Elena Vasquez, appearing deceptively human and fragile compared to the armored insectoids, crystalline energy beings and massive bioforms surrounding her. Behind her, a single holographic display waited to reveal humanity's vision for the galaxy's future. Honored delegates, Elena began, her voice carried by translation systems to every corner of the assembly. 7 days ago, the Scar hegemony attacked the human colony of Terra Nova without provocation, killing 2 million innocent civilians. A murmur rippled through the assembly. Ambassador Zeftar of the Corinian Empire shifted nervously in his environmental suit, while General Thrax's exoskeleton clicked with agitation. 7 days ago, Elena continued, the galaxy learned that humanity is not the peaceful, naive species you believed us to be. Today, you will learn what we actually are. She activated the holographic display, showing a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy with human positions marked in blue. The sheer scope of human deployment caused gasps from several delegates as they realized the extent of humanity's reach. We are teachers who have learned from every civilization in this chamber. We are students who never stopped asking questions. We are engineers who see problems not as obstacles, but as challenges to overcome. And we are guardians who refuse to allow the strong to prey upon the weak. Dr. Yelandra of the Altarian Collective leaned forward, her multiple eyes focusing intently. What do you want from us? Nothing, Elena replied simply. And everything. The paradox sent confused signals through the translation systems as delegates struggled to understand. We want nothing from you that you aren't willing to give freely. No tribute, no subjugation, no territorial concessions. But we want everything to change about how this galaxy operates. She gestured to the holographic display, which began showing economic and military data from across galactic space. For millennia, galactic civilization has operated on principles of competition, exploitation, and survival of the strongest. These principles have created a universe where billions live in fear, where entire species can be destroyed for resources or territory, and where peace exists only as a temporary pause between conflicts. Trade Commissioner Yexila's crystalline form pulsed with nervous energy. You propose an alternative? We propose the obvious alternative that every civilization in this chamber has been too afraid to attempt, Elena replied. Cooperation, mutual protection, shared prosperity, the radical idea that everyone's security is more important than anyone's dominance. War Queen Siskara of the Scar hegemony rose from her position, her imposing form casting shadows across nearby delegates. Cooperation is weakness. The strong survive by dominating the weak. This is the natural order. Elena turned to face the War Queen directly, showing no sign of intimidation despite the size difference. The natural order, Your Majesty, is whatever the most powerful force in the galaxy decides it should be. And as of 7 days ago, that force is humanity. The chamber fell silent as the implications settled over the assembled delegates. But unlike previous dominant species, Elena continued, humanity chooses to use our power to protect rather than to conquer. We choose cooperation over domination because we've learned something that apparently escaped your species during your 2,000 years of expansion. And what is that? War Queen Siskara demanded. That a galaxy where everyone prospers is more valuable than a galaxy where only you prosper, Elena activated new displays showing economic projections that made several delegates recoil in shock. Human analysis indicates that current galactic civilization operates at approximately 12% efficiency. Resource allocation is hampered by trade wars, technological development is slowed by competitive secrecy, and population productivity is reduced by constant military expenditure. She highlighted specific examples that hit close to home for various civilizations. The Corinian Empire spends 40% of its resources defending against Scar expansion. The Altarian Collective maintains military forces that could be researching medical advances instead. The Scar hegemony's conquest campaigns cost more than the resources they acquire. Even the Neutral Trading Confederation, she continued, turning to Ambassador Krelthon, profits from inefficiency by charging premium prices for services that could be provided at fraction of the cost through cooperative logistics. Ambassador Krelthon's tentacles curled defensively. Commercial competition drives innovation and efficiency. Commercial cooperation drives faster innovation and greater efficiency, Elena countered. Humanity has spent 30 years studying every civilization's technological achievements. Do you know what we discovered? She activated displays showing technological development timelines across the galaxy. Every major breakthrough achieved by any species could have been developed centuries earlier if information had been shared freely rather than hoarded, competitively. Dr. Yelandra's optical organs focused on the data with growing amazement. These calculations suggest technological advancement rates could increase by orders of magnitude. Conservative estimates indicate that full galactic cooperation could achieve in decades what competitive development requires. Centuries to accomplish, Elena confirmed. Medical advances that could eliminate disease. Energy technologies that could power civilizations indefinitely. Transportation systems that could connect the galaxy like a single world. And you expect us to simply abandon millennia of successful survival strategies based on theoretical projections? War Queen Siskara challenged. I expect you to abandon them because the alternative is extinction, Elena replied matter-of-factly. The blunt statement sent shockwaves through the assembly as delegates realized the implicit threat. Not extinction at human hands, Elena clarified quickly. Extinction through your own systemic failures. She activated new displays showing long-term projections for galactic civilization under current systems. Current conflict patterns are unsustainable. Resource depletion from competitive waste, population decline from constant warfare, technological stagnation from security restrictions. Give it another 1,000 years, and galactic civilization will collapse under the weight of its own inefficiencies. The projections were undeniable. verified by mathematical models that several civilizations had secretly developed but never shared. Humanity offers an alternative, Elena continued. Join the Terran Cooperation Accord. Maintain your independence, your culture, your governments, but agree to share information freely, resolve conflicts through arbitration rather than warfare, and contribute to collective defense against external threats. And if we refuse? General Thraxis asked, his mandibles clicking nervously. Elena's expression didn't change, but somehow the atmosphere in the chamber grew noticeably colder. Then you continue operating under your current systems with one significant modification, which is any civilization that attacks another member of galactic community will discover that humanity takes collective defense very seriously. She activated a final display, showing human military capabilities in full detail for the first time. The assembled delegates stared in growing horror at fleet compositions, technological specifications, and strategic deployment patterns that dwarfed anything previously seen in galactic history. We prefer cooperation, Elena said quietly, but we're prepared for any alternative you choose. War Queen Siskara studied the military data with the expertise of a career warrior. You could conquer the galaxy. Yes, but you won't. Not unless you force us to. The War Queen was silent for long moments, processing implications that challenged everything her species believed about power and survival. What guarantee do we have that human protection won't become human domination? Elena smiled for the first time during the presentation. The same guarantee you've always had from any powerful neighbor? None whatsoever. But consider this. In 30 years of contact with galactic civilization, name one instance where humanity broke its word or betrayed an ally. The chamber remained silent as delegates searched their historical records for evidence that didn't exist. The difference, Elena continued, is that human domination would still be better for your people than your current freedom. We're not offering to rule you because we're benevolent. We're offering to protect you because we're powerful enough to afford benevolence. She deactivated the displays and faced the assembly directly. You have 48 hours to decide. Join the Terran Cooperation Accord willingly, or wait for circumstances to force your decision. But understand that the status quo ended 7 days ago when the Scar hegemony decided to test human resolve. As Elena walked calmly toward the exit, leaving the galaxy's leadership to contemplate choices that would reshape civilization, Ambassador Zeftar voiced the question every delegate was thinking. What if we're making the right choice for the wrong reasons? War Queen Siskara's response was barely audible above the chamber's V.